Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So a lot of people have responded to Selena Gomez by now, as you can imagine. Did a video about that the other day. Republicans, conservatives, people from the Latino community have responded to her. People from the Black community have responded to her. People who live in Chicago, New York, who live in these sanctuary cities, who see firsthand the damage that open borders has done to this country.
Where was her video of 53-year-old Gloria Cassio, who was hit 100 miles an hour by somebody that didn't know how to drive? Where was Selena's video over 25-year-old Ruby Garcia, when somebody that was here illegally tried to steal her car? It got rough, and he shot her in the head and left her on the side of the road like a dog. Where was Selena Gomez's crocodile tears? Ain't this her people she claims to love? Where was Selena Gomez's video over 27-year-old Christopher Cab when he was hit by somebody that had been here illegally at 100 miles an hour? Where was Selena's video over 12-year-old Travis Wolf when an illegal from Venezuela was driving 75 miles an hour in the wrong lane and crashed head-on into his car, leaving this boy on life support a couple days before he died? The dude didn't even have a driver's license. Where was Selena Gomez's boo-hoo billionaire tears when this 10-year-old boy was struck by an illegal from Mexico and killed graveyard dead walking home from school? They called it an accident. It's not an accident. An accident is when something couldn't have been prevented. This could have been prevented. Where was Selena Gomez when 16-year-old Elizabeth Medina had been stalked for weeks by migrants, eventually ending her found dead in her bathtub in her own home? You know who found her? Her mother. Where was Selena's bullshit tears over her? This is 2-year-old Jeremy Pooh. I've done a story over this kid when it happened. This kid was killed by an illegal migrant from El Salvador during a GANG shootout. They just happened to get caught in the crosshairs. 2 years old. Where was Selena's tears?
One of the main criticisms of her was that she was essentially crying for criminals. With the executive orders that Trump signed, the first place they're starting off with is the criminals, the violent thugs, mainly men who have committed crimes against women and children. Gang members. Remember the stories about gangs taking over people's apartment complexes? No tears for them. No tears for the people who have lost their life at the hands of those who have come here illegally, gotten into a car, drunk or under the influence, and killed someone, including children. And that's why the White House has responded to Selena Gomez as well. Now, I don't think this is just about Selena Gomez. She is just one of many people who have big platforms, high-profile people who, number one, are trying to conflate legal immigration with illegal immigration, saying that if you want criminals to be deported, you are just anti-immigration, you are just racist, bigoted.
You know, to answer your question, which is this the immigration fix that this country wanted? I think absolutely there are certain people that wanted to see this kind of pain and destruction for a certain group or type of immigrant. Because if you look at the numbers, yes, the number of immigrants that come from Mexico or of Mexican-born are the largest. But the next largest are Asians. 28% of them come. I don't think they walk across the southern border. I think they come by plane. The next largest are Europeans. I don't think they walk either. I'm just saying immigrants, right?
Oh, not undocumented, though.
A lot of them are undocumented, actually.
But that's not the stat for being
but a lot
of them
come
by
plane
and
then overstay their visas. They overstay their visas. They overstay their visas, so they're undocumented. The Europeans that come here that overstay their visas are undocumented, but they don't come across the southern border. So I think there's a very clear message as to what this president wants the look of a criminal migrant to look like, what an undocumented migrant. And I think that's racist. Let me also say that, in my view, he has circumvented established law by weaponizing the U.S. military.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Generally, before being deported, you have an asylum case pending in front of a court, and you must appear in front of that judge. Right now, there are 3 million asylum cases and 900 judges. That is why the bipartisan bill that was going to be passed addressed that particular issue. Instead of dealing with it legally in that way, and I'm not saying he's doing it illegally, what he did was declared a national emergency that qualifies as a foreign invasion. And on the U.S.-Mexico border, not any other border. And that cleared the way for the Department of Defense to deploy the military at a 60% increase. I just think that our military members, many of them did not join the military to do that job. And let me say just finally that They are also racially profiling in doing this.
There are claims that it's not just the criminals who are being deported. Well, yeah, they've been pretty open about that. If you're hanging out with criminals, or if you just happen to be at a roadblock and you don't provide proof that you are here legally, yeah, you too could get deported as well. Because that's the ultimate goal, is to deport those who are here illegally, who came across the border because the Biden administration essentially welcomed them into the country in record numbers and didn't even vet them. And because of that, Americans have fell victim to illegal immigrants who commit crimes. These are crimes that were preventable if we had just secured our borders, like any country does. We had just done that. We had just kept Trump's Remain in Mexico policies, for example. So many of these deaths could have been prevented, such as Laken Riley, Rachel Mooring. You know what? The loved ones of these people, of these women who lost their lives, they have addressed Selena Gomez directly in a video released by the White House today.
What about our children who were brutally murdered and raped and beat to death?
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. So many people are getting attacked. Children.
Seeing that video, it's hard to believe that it's actually genuine and real because she's an actress.
You don't know who you're crying for. What about our children who were brutally murdered and raped and beat to death and left on the floor by these illegal immigrants?
I just feel like it's a ruse to deceive people and to garner sympathy for lawlessness.
I wish I could do something, but I can't.
My daughter was a child. There's many other children whose lives were taken due to people who crossed here illegally.
They didn't cry for our daughters.
No one has stood up except for us mothers to cry out about our children.
I am so happy that Trump won. I am so glad that this is one of the first bills to help with immigration.
It's only been 2 weeks, if that, since he's been in office, and he's taking accountability and he's making moves and he's making things happen.
President Trump genuinely cares for the American people. He cares for the American family.
I truly appreciate everything Donald Trump has done.
We stand with President Trump and make America safe again.
He showed a lot more dignity and composure than Selena certainly did. Just saying, I mean, these are mothers who lost their children at the hands of violent thugs. The suffering that they endured at the hands of these people. Laken Riley fought for her life for 18 minutes. And, you know, Rachel Mooring, I believe that was Rachel Mooring's mother there. Jocelyn Nungare's mother was also featured. Tammy Nobles, whose 20-year-old daughter Kayla Hamilton was murdered by MS-13 gang member. How does an MS-13 gang member waltz into America from El Salvador? How? These people weren't even vetted. The lack of care that the last president showed towards his own people. The lack of concern for our safety, our children's safety. And you want us to be outraged that a bunch of gang members, drug dealers, child predators, violent criminals are being deported? You want us to be crying over that? Makes no sense. The election's over. Trump is president. He's in. That's it. But this wasn't to persuade anybody, you know, of anything, but to basically get people back to reality. You're going to cry for someone, cry for their daughters, the loved ones who are grieving at the moment, especially when you realize that this was preventable with just some key measures in place that were already there when Biden took office. Those measures were already there. All of a sudden, election time, they acted like they cared about the border suddenly, or Kamala, when she was going for her campaign. What did she say on that very show, The View? That there was not one thing she would do differently. Thank God she wasn't elected. This should not even be necessary, what is going on now, this big push for mass deportations, record numbers. That shouldn't even be necessary. But it's necessary because a record number of people entered the country in the first place. Let's not forget about these charities that receive all this funding, these Catholic charities, these hotels, these 5-star hotels that were receiving all of these subsidies and all of this funding to house illegals. Oh, and don't forget the people who want to essentially bring back slave labor, who are crying about people no longer going to be there to pick our crops,
who wash the dishes,
do our laundry for us. And what was it? Clean toilets?
If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
There's people crying about that too, while showing no compassion whatsoever to the family members of these victims. You've got to sit there and listen to all this nonsense. Sit there and watch Selena Gomez crying over criminals. How does that make them feel? But thankfully, they know that the majority of people in this country are with them and voted so that Trump will do exactly what he's doing now.
And on inflicting as much pain as possible in communities across the country.
Donald Trump has said we're going to have a legal immigration system. And that's really the issue here is it going to be legal immigration where we know who people are, where they're coming from, why they're coming here? Are they of a benefit to our country? Are we going to continue to have the chaos of the last several years where millions upon millions upon millions of people just flow across the border? And I heard Maria say this is about inflicting pain. And I strongly disagree with that. I think a lot of pain has already been inflicted on our country. I'm sure Laken Riley's family would say they're in enormous anguish still to this day because of what happened to their daughter when she was violently murdered by an illegal immigrant. There's pain felt in cities all over America. Talk to any local official. They're trying to deal with these illegal immigrant populations in New York and Chicago and many other cities. There's a lot of pain that's already been inflicted. The point is this: we have to have a legal immigration system, and it has to benefit the United States. The current system is of no benefit to the United States in the way that it has been administered over the last 4 years. And one final political point: the American people voted for Donald Trump to get this chaos under control. And the New York Times polling this weekend, it was not controversial. People want deportations of people who are here, especially if they are violent criminals.
Which is why I believe at the end of the day, the cruelty and the pain and the division is what Trump is after, because that is what his base wants. And
Maria, that's not true. I voted for Donald Trump, and I don't want cruelty and division. I want law and order, and I want an immigration system that works for the United States.
With Democrats,
Donald Trump is not interested in deporting people who are here legally. People who have followed all the rules. They're interested in primarily, right out of the gate, two populations: violent criminals and people who have existing adjudicated deportation orders. That's millions of people. And I refuse to accept the farcical argument that the U.S. economy is underpinned by rapists, murderers, and people who are awaiting deportation. It's just not true.
Wow. Absolute facts. Scott Jennings, man, I don't know how he does it. Speaking to these people, I don't know how he does it. So calmly as well. But they're all reading from the same script. Funny enough, The View was saying the same thing. Oh, you want pain? What are you talking about? The pain of mothers who have lost their kids doesn't matter, but we should be worried about inconveniencing a bunch of criminals. And of course, they go to their usual, oh, what are you saying about all immigrants? No. We're not saying that all of the immigrants who have come through the border are violent thugs, violent criminals. But there's plenty of them. There's plenty of gang members who have come across the border, unchallenged. Child predators, who are having a field day, by the way, because with open borders, it's a lot easier to do all that trafficking. None of these people are crying for the children that have gone missing. They're reading from the same script. They all sound the same. This is orchestrated, trying to spread their propaganda and change people's minds. Well, guess what? It's not working. As Scott pointed out there, a recent survey. It's not working. People are happy this is happening. So President Trump announced on X that Venezuela hostages have recently been released. That's great news. This is them on their way home. And this is what he said. It is so good to have the Venezuela hostages back home. And very important to note that Venezuela has agreed to receive back into their country all Venezuela illegal aliens who were encamped in the US, including gang members of Tren de Aragua. Venezuela has further agreed to supply the transportation back. We are in the process of removing record numbers of illegal aliens from all countries, and all countries have agreed to accept these illegal aliens back. Furthermore, record numbers of criminals are being removed from our country, and the border numbers are the strongest they have been since the first term of the Trump administration. Majority of the people in this country want to hear that. That's just facts. Don't like it, gonna have to deal with it. So that was a very powerful video in my opinion, hearing directly from the people who have been affected by these reckless policies. And it could have been anybody. It could have been any one of us. The people crying about these gang members being deported are the same people who were silent when a woman was burned to death on the train, burned to death on the subway, by somebody who re-entered the country after getting deported a few years ago in 2018, re-entered again under the Biden administration because of their open borders. If you've been deported, usually that flags up when you try to re-enter the country. But he was able to waltz back in because they didn't even check. It's not noble to not protect your own household or want to protect everybody else. That's not noble. That's reckless and wicked. Now, this isn't just about Selena, because there is a big push by Democrats, by the mainstream media, to get us to accept that goes against our own interests, to get us to accept living in a country that isn't even safe. So I don't see this as picking on Selena. He was crying and all of this. Those mothers have every right to respond to the video she put out. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.